Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister Pham Binh Minh, Minister Bui Thanh Sen, and Minister Ayres, ministers, ambassadors, colleagues, friends of Southeast Asia, all. It's a real privilege for me to join this OECD Southeast Asia Ministerial Forum 2022, and a very warm thank you to the government of Vietnam for your very warm welcome in hosting this event. Let me also recognize the Australian government as the co-chair of the OECD Southeast Asia Regional Programme, represented by Minister Tim Ayres. This forum embodies the growing weight of Southeast Asia in the world economy and this region's role as a globally focused manufacturing, services, and trading hub. The Southeast Asian region, with over 660 million people, collectively the world's fifth largest economy, continues to be one of the main drivers of global growth, even and including in these challenging times. The theme of this year's Ministerial Forum could not be more timely or relevant. OECD members and Southeast Asian economies have a profound shared interest in supply chain resilience and sustainability. Some 56% of this region's exports are destined for consumption in OECD markets, highlighting our deep connection within global supply chains. We are the collective beneficiaries of open markets and a rules-based international trading system. But in this era of disruption, geopolitical tension, and economic transition, open markets and our international rules-based trading system are under pressure. Please let me set the scene for today's discussion. First, by exploring the wider backdrop when it comes to building supply chain resilience and sustainability. Second, by considering this context as it relates to the economies of Southeast Asia. And third, by highlighting what the OECD can bring to the table in a spirit of genuine partnership. In recent years, policy makers and business people everywhere have grappled not just with the macroeconomic fallout from the COVID pandemic and from geopolitical events, but with some severe microeconomic disruptions as well. These shocks have revealed vulnerabilities in supply chains and heightened concerns about the risks related to an interconnected global economy. Vital products were simply not available or in such short and sporadic supply that production systems had to be either curtailed or shut down completely for periods at a time. The result? Supply chain bottlenecks, even choke points, and of course, soaring costs. Through the worst of the COVID pandemic, these impacts were felt across many ASEAN countries in sectors as diverse as electronics, semiconductors, motor vehicles, as well as clothing and footwear. China's zero COVID policy, pandemic-related border controls, and global shipping disruptions have continued to place pressure on Southeast Asian supply chains. More recently, Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine has further disrupted supply chains, leading to higher energy and food prices and triggering a global surge in inflation, which is now becoming more and more broad-based. Wider geopolitical tensions, not least in the Indo-Pacific region, have also been at play. We've seen trade policies used to pursue political objectives and the greater use of coercive instruments. The growing use of distortive subsidies is also putting the rules-based international trading system under real strain. Meanwhile, economies everywhere are navigating an era of enormous structural change associated with the 21st century's two great transformations, the digital and green transitions of our economies. And of course, while overwhelmingly positive, those transformations also come with their challenges and disruptions. Firms and governments are facing the challenge of ensuring the economic sustainability and resilience of supply chain at a time when the environmental and social impact of trade are appropriately under greater scrutiny. So it's a complex landscape with big challenges to confront, but also with opportunities to unlock in partnership. In practice, the drive for supply chain resilience can take a variety of forms, some market-friendly, based on commercial risk management, others less benign, based on economic nationalism or a more protectionist search for self-sufficiency. For Southeast Asia, there are both opportunities and risks in those current trends. Within Asia, the search for greater optionality and resilience has seen many companies diversify product sourcing. The rise of the China Plus One corporate strategy is an example of the opportunities this creates for ASEAN economies. The fact that Southeast Asian markets offer a fast-growing consumer base is also driving companies to relocate to this region. How best to optimize the opportunities flowing from Southeast Asia's deep integration into existing global supply chains, while successfully navigating some of the complexities of 21st century geopolitics, that is one of the key challenges in front of this region. Closing markets or dividing the world into blocks would carry enormous economic costs, especially for small and medium-sized emerging economies. According to conservative WTO analysis, the disintegration of the global economy into two blocks would reduce global GDP by 5%, with developing economies facing disproportionate losses with a 7% reduction in long-term GDP. So in considering our aspiration for resilient supply chains, we must not lose sight of the way that open markets enable the diversification of supply and demand and hence underpin resilient supply chains. Well-functioning markets are the friend of economic resilience, as was demonstrated through the pandemic. The experience of Southeast Asia shows that open economies grow faster than closed ones. Trade lowers prices and increases choice, enabling access to goods and services that would otherwise be unavailable or costly to both consumers and firms. But of course, well-functioning markets are not some naturally occurring phenomenon. They require good policy and sound governance at both domestic and international levels. Rules matter, especially in a world where more and more people are concerned about the negative consequences of unfettered globalization. A key challenge is to reap the full benefits of open trade, but with clear rules and sound policy approaches, for example, to avoid environmental harm or to ensure social sustainability. Not all supply chains respect workers or the environment. That's why we need to work together across a broad front to ensure economic integration builds both resilience and sustainability based on fit-for-purpose rules and standards. Let me touch briefly on 4 guiding principles the OECD has developed in this regard. First, anticipating risk. This means understanding the nature of the stresses to which supply chains are subject. Scenarios and risk management strategies can reveal the potential shocks expected from a given crisis, allowing for better preparedness. Second, minimizing the exposure to shocks. This requires investing in infrastructure and enabling the digital transformation of economies, which are 2 important and concrete ways to underpin the flow of goods, services, and people. Third, promoting transparency and communication. This applies between governments at the international level and between the public and private sector domestically. Transparency and communication are key to building trust in the capacity of global supply chains to provide goods and services at the right time, limiting market volatility. Fourth, keeping markets open. Governments can play an active role in keeping markets open by developing a full range of economic cooperation tools, from formal agreements to softer forms of policy coordination and trade facilitation measures. This is precisely where we should look to take our partnership, building on the strong foundations of the OECD's Southeast Asia Regional Programme and many practical initiatives already in place. I'll mention just some of them in closing. Through our analytical tools and databases at the OECD, including our Trade in Value-Added database, we can help countries identify and address possible supply chain choke points. Our Services Trade Restrictiveness Index allows us to support enhanced transparency in services trade. A range of initiatives address the social and environmental dimensions of globalization. For example, with our Responsible Supply Chains in Asia program, we work with governments and companies to implement the OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises to boost long-term competitiveness and resilience. Our Clean Energy Finance and Investment Mobilization program supports governments in unlocking finance and investment for renewable electricity and clean energy. Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam are already on board. The SME Policy Index for ASEAN offers policymakers over 600 indicators for monitoring and evaluating progress in SME policies. We plan to release the next edition in 2024. And finally, public-private partnerships are so essential. The launch of the Southeast Asia Business Network later today will help us attract quality foreign direct investment for the digital and green transitions and to improve economic resilience. I look forward to our discussions today. I'm confident that our shared vision will guide us to build an even stronger partnership in the region for a better future for all. Thank you.